Radyo-katipunan. News, insights, inspiration. Radyo-katipunan. Down from the hill and down to the world. Radyo-katipunan. The voice of the Blue Eagle. The voice of the Blue Eagle. Radyo-katipunan 87.9.
Radyo, 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 katipunan, radyo, katipunan, radyo, katipunan, radyo, 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 katipunan, radyo, katipunan. The voice of the Blue Eagle, kami di mapipigil sa pagbabalitang tumpak at tama. Buhay atin sa labas ng eskwela, ating ibibida lahat ng eskwela. Radyo, 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 katipunan, radyo, 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 katipunan, radyo, katipunan, radyo, katipunan. Kawan ni Ignacio, katipunero sugo, todo sa kayod, tunong at tulong. Lipad na Blue Eagle, galing hiding at tigil.
Baka naman pwede?
Baka naman pwede.
Mga isyung napapanahon, ating pag-usapan.
Baka naman pwede.
Gamit ang mga pananaw mula sa iba't ibang kalinangan.
Baka naman pwede.
Mula sa Institute of Philippine Culture, kami inyong samahan, tayo'y maghuntahan. Dito lang sa
Baka naman pwede.
Tuwing Huwebes, alas 3 ng hapon, dito lang sa Radyo Katipunan 87.9 FM.
Nakikinig kayo ngayon sa Baka Naman Pwede, isang programa ng Institute of Philippine Culture at ng Radyo Katipunan 87.9 FM. Kinagagalak namin makasama kayo ngayong hapon. Ako si Skilty Labastilla, isang mananaliksik sa IPC at guro sa Ateneo de Manila University. Sana po ay nasa mabuti tayong kalagayan ngayong araw. Please let us know where you're watching the stream from so we can give you shout-outs, we can greet you. Sa mga first time po nating makasama, ang Baka Naman Pwede ay isang programa ng IPC na naglalayong mapagnilayan ang mga napapanahong issue. Ginagamit natin ang lente ng agham panlipunan o social sciences upang mapag-isipan at mas maunawaan ang mga pang-araw-araw na usapin. Nais din naming mapag-usapan ang mga bagay na baka naman pwedeng tingnan muli, pag-ukulan ng pansin at aksyonan. Itong episode po na ito ay bahagi ng 61st anniversary ng IPC ngayong Setyembre po. No? So please watch out for us, follow our Facebook page because we have more exciting discussions planned in the next few weeks. Noong nakaraang linggo po, pinag-usapan natin ang role of women in the pandemic. We had with us Dr. Natsi Africa Verceles ng UP Diliman at si Prof. Mary Reseles ng IPC at ng Ateneo Socio-Antro at ng UP Antro din. Madami tayong natutunan sa kanila tungkol sa naging papel ng kababaihan sa pag-organisa ng kanilang komunidad noong nitong pandemya. Napag-usapan din ang gender roles, no? Kung paano ito nakatali sa karanasan ng mga kababaihan at kung paano ito mababago. Sa episode naman po na ito, na pinamagatang Voice of the Youth or Tinig ng Kabataan, makakakwentuhan natin ang dalawang youth leaders tungkol sa kanilang karanasan bilang mga pinuno, no? na kabataan. Sa ating mga viewers po sa Facebook, maaari kayong maging bahagi ng kwentuhan na ito. Feel free to leave comments and questions during our discussion, and we will be reading them during the Q&A portion. Sige po, so ipapakilala ko na po ang ating dalawang panauhin ngayong hapon. Ang una po nating guest ay si Patrick Manuel, Executive Director of Aktibong Kabataan ng Mandaluyong or AKMA, isang organisasyon na nag-advocate for active youth participation in the city. Patrick co-founded Pantawid COVID Project, a youth-led crowdfunding initiative that raised more than 2.5 million worth of donations, benefiting 9,000 indigent families and 1,200 medical frontliners across Luzon during the height of the enhanced community quarantine. Good afternoon, Patrick.
Magandang hapon po, Sir Skilty, of course, at din po sa ating mga nanonood sa radyo-katipunan at sa mga nakatutok sa Facebook Live. Good afternoon po.
Ayan. Thanks for being with us today, Patrick. I will introduce our second guest for this afternoon. Gwyneth Marie Vasquez studies Bachelor of Arts in Anthropology at the Ateneo de Davao University, where she's a student leader, being the founding president of the Mindanaoan Anthropological Society of the Ateneo, or Masa, and the former editor-in-chief of ADU's student publication, Atenews. She just finished her internship for IPC, where she was part of a team that developed integrated local health information systems. She's also currently involved with the Ramon Magsaysay Award Foundation on a project that advocates for inclusive education and Indigenous people's rights in the Philippines. Good afternoon, Gwen.
Good afternoon, Sir Skilty and Sir Patrick, and to all our viewers. Hello, everyone.
Right, sige. So simulan na natin ang ating kwentuhan ngayong araw. Magsimula tayo sa kumustahan, no? So I want to ask Patrick and Gwen, what keeps you up these days? What are you living for these days? Siguro we'll start with Patrick and then Gwen will follow.
Ayan, so magandang tanong po yan, Sir Skilty, no? Sa mga araw na to, sobrang busy ng organization namin in terms of really the last push for the voters registration. Kasi we all know na September 30 yung deadline. And then may mga panukala online din from the Congress and the Senate na extend, pero hanggat wala pa rin namang formal announcement na it was already extended. Talagang nagla-last push kami on ground, hindi lang online, to really bring the youth sa mga registration sites natin, especially kami dito sa Mandaluyong with Aktibong Kabataan ng Mandaluyong or AKMA. Very accessible na siya dahil nasa malls na. And then for Pantawid COVID Project naman, unfortunately, we really have to mobilize again for the victims of Typhoon Kiko and Jolina sa Batanes. Actually, kaya one of the very reasons then why I'm really excited to be here tonight, kasi isa sa mga pinakamalaking stakeholders natin, si Tanging Yaman Foundation, led by Father Manuel Francisco. Ayan, recently nasa Ateneo de Manila kami picking up goods. So thank you so much po, of course, kay Father for continuously supporting our cause in Pantawid COVID Project. Thank you po, Sir Skilty. And nice to meet you din, si Gwyneth.
Yes.
Good afternoon.
Right. Thank you. Maraming salamat sa updates, no, tungkol sa mga gawain ng AKMA at ng sa advocacy niyo for voters registration. Gwen, what's keeping you busy these days?
Hi, Sir Skilty and Sir Patrick again. Right now, I'm really busy with my thesis since I'm still a student. So I'm starting with my thesis proposal, and since I'm an anthropology major, I'm planning, or at least hoping, that I can go on fieldwork next semester. And aside from my academic work, I'm currently involved nga in Masa. It's a really new organization in Ateneo de Davao, since anthropology was, or rather undergraduate course in anthropology was recently introduced or launched in ADU. So we're also a new organization, and we're really busy with trying to set it all up. So, yung mga pinagkakaabalahan po namin ay yung sa pag-i-establish pa kumbaga ng aming organization. Pero hindi naman siya ganun kahirap kasi marami naman kaming mga eksperyensado ng mga members. So, ang pinaplano nga talaga namin ay hindi lang siya gawing isang academic or isang student club na focused lang within sa university, kundi gusto talaga naming mag-extend siya outside the university. So our members can also engage in issues that concern them, siguro not within the university but outside, and that includes voter registration, something that is very urgent siguro at this time, and something that's a bit difficult for some kasi may iba na hindi makalabas ng bahay or may iba na hindi accessible yung voting para sa kanila. At dito nga sa amin sa Davao, since I'm in Davao right now, medyo congested kumbaga ang aming mga registration site. So, isa yan sa mga hamon na kinakaharap ng mga bagong botante dito sa amin.
Salamat, Gwen. So mamaya pag-usapan natin in more detail yung voters registration, no? Kasi nga nabanggit niyo na sobrang halaga nung papel ng kabataan ngayon pagdating sa pagiging bahagi ng ating demokrasya, no? Actually, kayong dalawa, yung cities ninyo are very familiar to me because I've lived in both Mandaluyong and Davao cities. No? I think I stayed in Mandaluyong for like 8 years. No? Diyan ako nakatira sa may City Hall, sa may Silo Circle. And then in Davao, I stayed there for about a year for my thesis. No? So I did research in Davao. I also taught part-time in UP Mindanao. So I can relate a bit to your contexts, so to speak. No? Siguro ang next ko na tanong, paano naapektuhan ang mga kabataan sa inyong syudad, no? sa Mandaluyong at sa Davao City ng pandemic? Anong naging epekto ng pandemic sa youth in your respective cities? Let's start with Patrick.
Okay. So for the youth naman po, both good and somehow challenging. When we said some of the pandemic affected the youth, medyo good siya. Kasi some really volunteered in different on-ground responses. They also participated sa ating mga relief efforts. Kasi Sir Skilty, last year, during the height of the pandemic, bukod dun sa may ECQ tayo, meron ding barangay dito sa Mandaluyong na nasunugan sa Addition Hill. So imagine, di ba, yun yung mga panahon na we're trying to control the rise of the cases, and then nakikita mo, the people are there crowded sa street. And then after that, nandun na sila sa mga tent. And then of course, kapag nasa tent ka, di ba, ang delikado, wala ng social distancing. So we know naman how it works kapag nag-evacuate. But yun, the good thing is, I met a lot of youth leaders in Mandaluyong. Actually, ACMA is a newly formed organization as well. 3 months old pa lang din kami. And you know, I met a lot of people organizing on the national level na parang during national events, nag-meet kami, and then we were like, uy, taga Mandaluyong ka? Ako din taga Mandaluyong. And then nag-usap kami, do we have platforms or student organizations in Mandaluyong aside from the SKs na they have the Katipunan ng Kabataan? And then we all realized na hala, wala. And then when you try to look into different places or different cities, meron silang mga youth orgs na may mga advocacies talaga. And then doon nabuo si ACMA. And then we focus on 4 advocacies: education, disaster risk reduction, good governance, and entrepreneurship. Yun yung mga medyo nakita namin na relevant sa lungsod. And then, yun yung sa good. For the bad naman, of course, we all know naman na everyone is still trying to cope up in terms of online learning. And then recently, part of the initiative then of ACMA is to raise funds to augment kung ano yung mga kailangan ng mga public schools natin. Like recently, we turned over boxes of bond papers, school supplies, and then vitamins from all our sponsors sa mga public schools natin. Kasi up until naman now, hindi naman po tayo pare-parehas ng privilege na meron na kapag nag-online class ka, nakabukas ka lang sa laptop, nakikinig ka. Others are still struggling to cope up, especially yung mga nagmo-modules. And other than that, siguro Sir Skilty is yung, well, common naman, yung mga challenges in terms of mental health na kinakaharap natin. Na-disrupt ng pandemic the way we live. Hindi na tayo nakakalabas, which is medyo nakakapanibago. And then syempre yung mga kaliwat ka ng balita na naririnig natin sa Facebook, sa mga news channels na talagang nakaka-trigger ng anxiety. I think that's all for the youth of Mandaluyong.
Salamat, Patrick. Sa Davao naman, Gwen, kumusta yung kabataan?
I think, Sir Skilty, I can relate to what Sir Patrick said no, about the struggles of the youth, especially ng mga kabataan na nag-online classes. Kasi sa context ko, siguro doon ako pinaka-familiar kasi yun yung pinakamalapit sa akin as a student din na nag-online class. So, some organizations ko, like part ako ng student publication, part din ako ng academic club namin sa anthropology. Very common yung struggle na aside sa walang internet access or mahina or bad yung internet access, ay nahihirapan din yung kabataan na kumbaga mag-draw ng boundary between buhay nila sa bahay at saka buhay nila sa school. Kasi kung dati-rate, separate yung spaces kung saan ka pumupunta para mag-aral at saan ka pumupunta para magpahinga. Ngayon, mix na yung dalawa. Minsan di mo na matel yung difference kasi kung saan ka natutulog, doon ka rin nag-aaral, doon ka rin nasa-stress dahil sa mga iba't ibang requirements sa paaralan. So, yan ay isang problema. At saka second din, kung may problema sa bahay, especially yung mga estudyante na, for example, may family problems, mas mahirap i-separate yung stress sa pamilya tsaka yung dapat nilang gawin for their academics. So, ang nagiging resulta ay they're having a hard time focusing on their academics because of these problems at home. So, yan po ay for online classes. And on the other hand, if I look at it from a broader perspective, like kung titingnan ko yung mga kabataan outside Ateneo de Davao, for example, I don't have enough experience or siguro hindi enough yung aking observations kasi haven't been there personally because of COVID. Only seen, listened to narratives, seen posts on social media, are in terms of our Lumad brothers and sisters na who are also like going to school through modular learning siguro, or yung iba na nasa college na ay nag-online classes din. Kung mahirap sa atin na tayo ay nasa syudad, mas mahirap sa kanila kasi mas malayo yung kanilang tinitirhan. Like some of them really live in places na walang internet connection, kaya ang ginagawa ay nagta-transfer sila ng bahay temporarily. They're renting sa city centers upang doon mag-aral. Or may iba naman na luckily are able to live with their relatives or their friends in order to do that. So you can really see how disparate the situation is no, for different students. And siguro just to add context, one of the things that's being done as well by Ateneo de Davao, like right now, is that they're having this project called Access Mindanao, where they're installing satellite internet connectivity to remote communities. So I think as of now, they've already installed 11 sites across Mindanao. So from the northernmost tip to the southernmost tip to Tawi-Tawi, they've already reached those places. And dahil nga parang ang laki ng influence niya, kumbaga, malaki ang pag-shape niya sa buhay ng mga Indigenous peoples, ay yun din ang aking naisip na gawin kong thesis topic. So hopefully, in the coming months, mas marami tayong malalaman tungkol dyan and mas mabibigyan natin ng kahulugan kung ano ang importance or paano siya nakatutulong sa kanila in some way.
Salamat, Gwen. Good luck sa thesis mo. That's a very, very, very relevant topic at maganda naman at yan yung napagtuunan mo ng pansin. Patrick, balikan ko lang yung baby mo, yung project mo, yung Pantawid COVID. Can you tell us a bit about how it started. Paano mo nasimulan yung project na yan at ano yung pinaka-goals ninyo?
Ayan. Actually po, sir, I am an alumnus of Far Eastern University in Manila. And then, nung nasa college po kami, sobrang hilig namin kumain ng mga friends ko doon sa tinatawag na Hepa Lane. So, it's called Hepa Lane kasi yung mga tusok-tusok, tipong 30 pesos lang, kompleto na yung ulam mo and everything. And then, parang may inside joke lang na halaba kapag kumain ka dyan, magka-hepa ka. So, yun, parang yun kaya siya nabansag ang Hepa Lane. So, nasa gitna siya ng FEU and University of the East. So, medyo malapit kami sa kanila na even during our college days, sila yung community beneficiary ng aming org. Whenever we do outreach program, we mentor them in terms of, let's say, yung mga accounting for non-accounting and then ano ba yung mga permits na kailangan ng isang vendor. So, we try to legalize their operation not until they were cleared. Nagka-clearing area na wala yung famous na Hepa Lane sa Manila, naging ano na lang siya, naging parking lot na siya up until today. And then, while we are in the process of coordinating with the LGU na baka naman we can do something for the vendors kasi hindi lang naman sila mga street vendors. These are also breadwinners of their respective families na may mga pinapaaral sa kolehiyo, elementary, high school, when we did our profiling. But, ayun, while we are on the process of negotiating with the LGU, of course, nagkaroon po ng pandemic, na-announce na si ECQ. So, ang pinakauna po namin talagang inisip hala paano yung mga vendors, di ba? Parang kaliwat kanan na yung fundraising for the PPEs, for other sectors, pero nalilimutan din natin yung sektor ng lipunan na nakaasa lang din sa streets. And because of the pandemic, lockdown, suspended ng classes, wala talaga silang papagkukunan ng kanilang pang-araw-araw na daily expenses nila. And then, I messaged one of the officers of the Moraita Vendors Association. And then sobrang nakakalungkot knowing na sobrang uncertain din. Ito po yung mga first weeks ng ECQ natin na hindi nila alam paano nga ba kasi suspended yung classes, wala silang kita. And then that's when we mobilized online. Nag-post lang po kami sa Facebook. And then we called it social media bayanihan kasi in just 48 hours, we were able to raise more than 70,000 peso worth of donations. Ito po yung mga panahon na wala pang donation fatigue, generous pa ang mga tao. Yeah. And then lumaki siya po ng lumaki. As in, even tapos na kami sa relief operations namin sa Moraita. So we posted on Facebook na we are mobilizing for the vendors, ganyan. So even non-FEU students assisted help kasi I think they can resonate din sa plight ng mga street vendors natin. And then, yun, after po ni Moraita Vendors Association Relief Ops, tuloy-tuloy pa rin yung pasok ng donations, ng resources, and then we mobilized na to the different parts of Luzon. So from a single social media post, it raised more than 2.5 million. Last July 2020 pa po yun, pero ngayon I think we already surpassed our 5 million mark. Kasi ngayon naman po kay Batanes kami nagmo-mobilize. So basically, it's just a small social media post na nag-share ng maraming nakakita. And then we formalize it to Pantawid COVID project kasi sir, our goal is really clear. Pantawid lang siya. So sabi ko sa team noon, hindi tayo NGO, hindi tayo LGU, hindi tayo tagapagligtas. We just, nakita lang natin yung need mag-mobilize and then people are supporting. So why not continue yung relief effort? So from Manila, we reached Olongapo, Zambales, Quezon City, even in Mandaluyong po, and then other places pa po. And then we also help in raising funds for the PPEs of the medical frontliners. And then isa din po sa mga malaking tumulong doon sa inisyatibo namin is, I always acknowledge him, yan si Father Madaling Francisco po, from Tanging Yaman Foundation. And then, lagi po niya sinasabi lang sa amin na, sige, punta kayo dito sa may LS Court, dito sa may Ateneo, pick up goods. And then, recently, ayun po, sa Batanes, they assisted us with 1,000 food packs. And ngayon po, in partnership with the Air Force and then with the Navy, on the way naman na po yung goods natin and hopefully ma-distribute na. So yun po Sir Skilty, si Pantawid COVID Project, kwento lang siya ng bayanihan ng lahat ng tao na gustong tumulong pero wala silang platform. So basically, nabuhay yung initiative on partnerships, on networks, on connections, on linkages. Kung meron kaming partner na may kakilala sila na meron nung kailangan namin, ayun po, they connect us with other partners hanggang lumaki na po na lumaki that it was even supported by the US Embassy in Manila through yung concert ni Ben and Ben na po. We're also one of the beneficiaries. So basically, it's a Facebook post that, touched lives of many people through, of course, the bayanihan of the netizens.
Galing, ang galing. Very nice story, no? Ang tanong ko, Patrick, when ikaw ba mismo nag-post ng Facebook, ano na yun? Post?
Yes, sir. Up until now po, lumabas na siya sa Facebook ko last March 2021 na 1 year na siya. Sa Facebook,
Right.
alam, 1 year na pala tayo nagmo-mobilize. Ganun
So,
po.
nung pinost mo yun, meron ng akma nun? Or
Ay,
wala?
non pa po.
Wala
Wala
pa.
na, sir. Bali, nabuo na lang po si Akma last June 12. Kasi, sir, while doing Pantawid COVID project, I met a lot of Mandaluyong young leaders.
I see.
And then we were asking, may org ba tayo sa Mandaluyong na pwede nating simulan? Or may mga ganitong klaseng movements din? Meron ding mga networks or, sir, on-ground activities. And then we realized parang wala. And then, I initiated Akma. Same with Pantawid, kung paano ko siya ginawa. I reach out to my friends na I think makakatulong. And then ngayon, sir, we are an organization of 60 Mandaluyong youth leaders from different parts of the city. And then, ayun, ang dami, nakakatuwa na naging platform din ito for youth leaders to really, participate on ground na makatulong din sa paraang gusto nila. And then, if you can see po, si Pantawid COVID Project kasi it's just relief efforts. So it's nothing sustainable. It was established out of the urgency of the situation. Wherein si Akma, we really we want to create sustainable programs that are not just one-time, big time. And of course, involve the community, the barangay, the LGU in crafting those. So basically, sir, naging si Pantawid COVID Project, siya yung naging springboard ko para buuin si Akma kasi I saw na yung pag-relief efforts, those are just short-term solution, band-aid solution lang siya. And then I was exposed to a lot of best practices on ground ng mga student org na gusto natin dalin sa Akma and sa Mandaluyong.
That's very nice. So when you reached out to other places outside Metro Manila, no, other places in Luzon, ano yung logistics nun? May mga kasama ka na nun?
Yes po, sir. Ang strategy namin dyan is since we can mobilize on our own because of the, what do you call this one, yung mga checkpoints, and then di ba nung unang months pa, meron pang kailangan, may ID ka, meron kang pass, etc. We partnered with one of my co-founders, si Marjorie Baklig, who happened to be the CSR head of their company. So I told her na, Marge, I need your help. Kahit itag mo na project mo to, okay lang to, basta i-deliver natin. Kasi sa amin naman doon, sir, hindi na issue yung project ownership eh. We don't care about the credits, whether you get mentioned na it's from Pantawid. Minsan nga po, we are being maximized pa by politicians. Pero yun, other story naman po yun. As in talagang we talk with them na, sir, cannot be yan. Pera yan ng mga donors namin. We can't just put your tarpaulin and your name sa mga packs. Hindi po pwede yan. Pero in terms naman po of partnering with private companies, they're very generous naman po. And then, they even, yung company ng friend ko, they even open their office para maging headquarters namin. Doon po kami tumatanggap ng mga donations, doon kami nag-repack and all. So, really, sir, partnerships lang po talaga. And then, shared goal para din dun sa mga partners natin.
Right. Thanks, Patrick. Gwen, yung Masa, sabi mo, bagong student org din siya, no? And then you're the founder, you're the founding president. Can you share with us ano yung vision mo for this organization? Nabanggit mo na kanina na gusto mong hindi lang focus sa university but really involve the outside community. Can you share with us the long-term vision for Masa?
Yes, sir, Skilty, sure, no. Yung long-term vision naman ng Masa is really, I think, we want to promote anthropology as a discipline, but in a way that people will see how it's relevant to their everyday lives. Kasi pag sinabi nating anthropology, especially siguro in our context in the Philippines, it's not really a popular discipline. Or in fact, I've encountered some people na, ano yung anthropology? Is that the study of ants? Hindi po ito study of ants. Ito po ay study of human beings. Pero those are anyway, one of the challenges siguro that we face, because people don't tend to una get familiar with it, and second, have a hard time appreciating it because it's not that popular, at least in our context. That's why we really want to promote it. Or rather, we want Masa to be that platform where people will know about anthropology and people will see how it's important, how it can help them. Kaya one of the things that we plan to, or one of the things that we think will make that happen, is to engage in issues na uh, na relevant din para sa mga tao, hindi lang sa mga tao within the academe, but for people of different backgrounds. Kaya we're engaging, or we plan to engage, and in fact we're already engaging in issues no na may stake, kumbaga hindi lang ang mga tao na nasa upper class, but even those na nasa baba, kumbaga ng social pyramid. So ang plan is really to, aside from engage in social issues, engage in a way na we foster critical thinking within our organization. So we don't want to just kumbaga follow or to go with the mainstream thinking. Not to say that it's totally bad, but we want people, or we want our members to think about why they believe in certain things, or why they think they should have a particular stand on a certain issue. I think an example of that was the first event that we had this September lang, the first week of September. So yun ang aming parang first public event, I should say, where we invited people from outside the university, our friends from NGOs, our friends then from other places in the country who might be interested, to talk about Davao City's waste to energy incineration project. Kasi it's a project that's being heavily disputed by environmental groups and NGOs dito sa Davao ngayon, kasi aside sa mga environmental at saka health risks niya, pwede rin niyang kumbaga ma-displace or mawalan ng trabaho yung mga informal waste sector, or yung mga nangangalakal ng basura, dahil yung mga basurang sana ay ilalagay doon sa landfill ay susunugin na. So mawawalan na sila ng livelihood, kumbaga. And when we actually had that conversation with our guests, with our audience, I think it was really able to kind of spark a conversation among people who before didn't really think that it was an issue, especially an issue that concerns the informal waste sector. Because throughout, siguro ang mas dominant kasi na opinion is focused on the environmental and the health effects. Pero ano din ang kanyang effects to marginalized populations, and that was what Masa was able to offer. So in the future, we hope to have more conversations that go or in line with that kind of advocacy.
Right. Thanks, Gwen. Now, I actually can relate to the anthro part, because I took anthro in college. So I wish you the best. I'm your cheerleader in your effort to popularize and to make anthropology known to many people. Another question for Gwen. Aside from being involved in Masa and of course in your student publication, I see that you're also advocating for inclusive education and Indigenous peoples. Can you talk a bit about that?
Yeah, that's actually part of a leadership program that I was selected to represent Ateneo de Davao in. It's named Next Gen Leadership Program. It's sponsored by the Ramon Magsaysay Award Foundation. So just a brief background siguro about the summit or the program. It's a 2-week program where we were able to meet Ramon Magsaysay awardees or laureates. So we had an intimate learning session with them. And what's really nice about it is sa end ng program, bibigyan kami ng opportunity na mag-initiate ng aming sariling project, kumbaga, upang ma-apply namin yung mga natutunan namin from the Ramon Magsaysay Awardees. So, yung theme na napili ng group ko, we're 7 in the group, is inclusive education and Indigenous people's rights. So, as of now, we're still in the planning stage, but we hope to implement it by January next year. And since matagal siya na process because we have to pitch it and get funding, we're really taking careful steps, kumbaga, to make sure that, it's organized well. But the overall idea of the project is to supplement, kumbaga, Ateneo de Davao University's Access Mindanao project. Kasi according to studies, it's not enough to provide physical access to people, for example, giving internet access, because at the end of the day, people have different skills in terms of using this technology. So what you have to do is to make sure that people also have the skills to use them, or that they're also, ang term na ginagamit ay digitally literate, though it can be a bit problematic. But people have to know how to use technology in order to benefit from it. So yun ang plano namin. It's nothing final, but more or less ganun ang form ng project. It will provide skills trainings, for example, and as much as possible also support, like for example, bibigyan ng access to digital tools and premium accounts that may be useful for educational purposes for teachers in an indigenous community here in Davao.
Thanks. So, very obvious, no, sa experience niyong dalawa, Patrick and Gwen, na may parang heavily invested kayo sa development, social development ng in your respective communities, but as well as the Philippines. Pagdating kasi sa political participation ng kabataan, in other countries, may trend na it's either the youth are apathetic, no, in terms of political participation. Parang they think na, especially the middle class or upper middle class youth, na parang I'm living a good life, I'm living a comfortable life, I don't need to worry about politics because it's confusing, it's dirty, etc. But your experiences show that the youth can actually play a very active part, no, in our democracy, in shaping the future. If we relate this to being part of the democratic process in during elections, no, nabanggit nyo kanina na both of you are very passionate about voters registration among the youth. How important do you think this is? Bakit mahalaga na mag-register yung kabataan sa election? Si Patrick muna.
Ayan. Ako, sir, personally, I believe kasi that everything is political and politics is personal. Hindi natin pwedeng sabihin na, well, some of the youth perhaps, uso pa rin sa kanila na I have a privilege ako, and then I'm not problematic. I don't want to be involved in the drama, bruhaha, and everything online. Pero kasi, as in, everything is political. Even the COVID response is political. And then, lalo na sa panahon natin ngayon, na nakikita mo talaga na ang gulo, di ba? Kailan ba yun? Ayan, September 21. I told my friends, this is the longest day, no? Kasi parang, nubos ko yung buong energy ko sa pakikipag-argument sa mga nagpe-peddle ng misinformation. So parang I started 8, and then gabi na, madaling araw na, meron pa rin ako nakakausap. I think yung partisipasyon ng kabataan, it's more like an investment. Mahalaga magparehistro, mahalagang bumoto. Kasi investment to eh. The more na nagkakagulo tayo ngayon sa response ng COVID natin, the cases are rising, and then ongoing ang historical revisionism, mas kailangan nating mag-participate kasi this is an investment for the next 6 years. So if you want betterment, if we want good governance, if we want people talaga that are compassionate and competent at talagang may malasakit sa tao yung mamuno, kailangan mag-participate tayo kasi hindi ka man naapektuhan ng problema ngayon, but believe me, in the next 6 years, pag hindi ka talaga nag-participate, it can be worse kung ano man yung kinakaharap natin ngayon. So, instead of, magreklamo tayo sa Twitter with tweets kasi, sir, di ba yung generation namin ni Gwyneth, kilala kami as the Twitter generation. Konting discomfort tweet, konting issue post sa Facebook. So, pero kung titignan po kasi natin talaga yung statistics and figures ng election nung last presidential 2016, ang class A, B, and C, yung which is the upper middle class, medyo ang liit lang talaga ng population nila. I saw an article na nasa 4 million lang siya from TV5. Pero si Class D and E, comprised siya ng more than 40 to 50 million. So basically, yung tweets natin, tayo-tayo lang din yung nakakabasa nun. Kahit ano pa yung mag-trending dyan, wala naman kasi online yung totoong laban. Offline and on ground. So echo chamber lang yon. So instead na mag-tweet, mag-post, though we are encouraging a healthy discussion online, there are still battles that we must fight outside the internet. Kaya yun ang lagi namin sinasabi when we conduct voters registration. Kailangan yung online campaign mo, it should translate into actual registered voters. Talagang yun ang ginagawa namin sa Mandaluyong ngayon. Even though we are challenged talagang dahil sa ECQ, di ba? Hindi kami makapag-mobilize sa mga barangay. What we do is we offered free printing. Send nyo sa amin yung form nyo. We'll be the one to print it. I-deliver pa namin sa Comelec kung kailan kayo pupunta. And even though we started, may mga 10 or 12 na nagsisend. Ngayon, as far as I know, lumalaki na po siya. And I think it's a good contribution, especially hindi naman lahat ay may access sa pagpiprint ng registration form nila. So yun yung ino-augment namin. So yun, sobrang halaga po talaga na magparehistro at bumoto. Bumoto ng tama, hindi lang bumoto. Kasi for me, sir, I see this talaga as an investment. Kung ano yung itatanim natin ngayon 2021, yun yung aanihin natin for the next years. Good example is Pasig, of course.
Right. Thanks, Patrick. Gwen, what can you share?
Yes, I definitely agree with Sir Patrick when he said na registering to vote is like an investment. And I think most of the reasons that we commonly hear when we say or that we commonly hear sa mga nagkakampanya na register to vote are 4 things. First is that we can make things right through our vote. If you're frustrated now, if tingin mo walang ginagawang hindi nakakatulong yung gobyerno sa'yo ngayon, then vote so that you can make things right. And second is vote so that you can make your voice heard. So may mga tao na nasa or mga marginalized belonging to marginalized populations na maririnig ang boses nila through their votes. And third, we also vote daw so that we can have a direct hand in policy changes. And fourth, we vote because it's a right and it's a duty. So yun yung 4 na naririnig natin siguro na common why it's important to vote. And this makes sense in a way because kung titingnan natin yung making things right na argument, according to Comelec, I just searched this a while ago, na as of September 11 pala, 2021, young Filipino voters comprise 52% of the total registered voters for the 2022 polls na pala. Ibig sabihin, kapag may collective vote ang youth, yung 52% ay lahat magboboto para sa isang kandidato, pwedeng manalo ang kandidatong yon kasi majority vote na ang 52%. And second, it also makes sense kung titingnan natin yung sinasabi na it's a right and a duty. Kasi I'm not a lawyer, but I just remember in my consti class way back that it's stipulated in our constitution, yung right to suffrage natin. As long as nami-meet natin yung requirements, then we're allowed to vote. So, someone who is part of this age group, a young Filipino myself, I definitely agree with that. Pero I think it's also important to look at the assumptions kung bakit ganito yung mga reasons or ano yung assumptions ng mga reasons na ito. At yung first ay as long as you register, as long as you vote, you can make things right. It's true, but also it takes greater effort to actually make things right. Like, for example, you'll have to rally people to vote the same person as you so that you'll have to have that collective vote for you to successfully elect a desired candidate. So, yung 52%, dapat 52% talaga siya upang manalo yung isang kandidato, for example. Or, hindi pwedeng isang vote lang mag-isa kasi paano mananalo yung isang kandidato kapag isa lang. And sometimes, yung hamon doon ay mahirap kumbinsihin yung ibang tao. Mahirap kumbinsihin kahit na may information na may mga tao na at some point nagsastand firm pa rin sa kanilang mga opinion. At yung second assumption naman ay once that candidate is in, pag elected na siya, diretso-diretso na yung changes na mangyayari. When and that candidate will make things right for us. When in fact, you have to continue holding them accountable. You have to criticize if the policies they are implementing are unjust or immoral, and we don't succumb to blind obedience. And unfortunately, this is what's happening, I think, this is what's happening to some people, no? Or at least right now, blind obedience is a problem. Doesn't mean that you voted for that candidate before because you think promising pa rin siya ngayon. That candidate can also make mistakes. That candidate can also do a lot of crazy things, no, na pwedeng ikakahirap ng maraming tao. Right. At saka yung third ay yung dahil right siya at dahil duty siya, ibig sabihin pag di ka bumoto, irresponsable ka na. Or pag bumoto ka, responsable kang mamamayan. When in fact, parang mas layered pa siya doon. Kasi kapag bumoto ka, pwede kasing bound ka by certain relationships. Like, for example, bumoto ka sa kandidato na ito dahil may utang na loob ka sa kanya. Or bumoto ka sa kandidato na to kasi relative mo siya, kamag-anak mo. Or on the other hand, pwede ding hindi ka bumoto kasi maraming mga circumstances na nag-limit sa'yo para di ka makaboto. Like, inaccessible ang registration or inaccessible yung voting precinct, nahihirapan kang pumunta kaya di ka nakakaboto. So at the end of the day, parang it's really more than casting your votes. We really need to have a nuanced understanding of it. But at the end of the day, it's important to vote because as one anthropologist said, si Michelle Obed, I'm not sure how to pronounce her surname. She actually argues that yung ating election ay hindi culturally neutral. Yung election natin ay reflection ng ating social life at yung ating kultura sa Pilipinas. So, kapag tayo ay frustrated na sa isang kandidato, then most probably, di na natin siya iboboto for the next elections. Para siyang political experimentation yung ginamit niya na term. So, yun ay nagre-reflect kung ano yung collective na feeling ng mga tao. So, ibig sabihin, we have to look at ano ba yung mga factors kung bakit nawawalan na ng suporta yung mga tao for this candidate. And at the end of the day, yung ating pagboto ay parang dynamic attempt, no, to be able to fulfill what was not fulfilled by the candidates that we originally voted for. So, at the end of the day, it can really be an avenue for us to, kumbaga, negotiate kung ano yung gusto nating mangyari.
Thanks, Gwen. There's a question here. Can the youth vote change the current political situation? Siguro we'll ask Patrick this one.
Youth vote? Okay. To be honest po, I think it's a 50-50 and really challenging. Kasi we don't want to sugarcoat things naman na ang mga kabataan, isa lang ang nirarally nila. Recently lang, nitong martial law anniversary, I can't believe that I am arguing with fellow kabataan. And then, ginagamitan tayo ng mga CPTOs or yung mga kanilang YouTube natatawa tuloy ako sa Skilty. Yung mga link na napapanood nila. Siguro, somehow, it can. To be honest naman po, nakikita natin na sobrang progressive ng generation na to. As in talagang everyone is doing their best to really participate.
Nawala ba si ano? Nawala si Patrick, no? Sige. Gwen, can you take over?
Okay, sir, sure. Baka may technical difficulty
Yeah,
lang
oo.
si Sir Patrick. About the question whether the youth vote can change the current political situation, kung titingnan natin yung figures, yes, because kung sa figures lang, yes, because kung titingnan natin nga yung registration, 52% na ng mga kabataan or 52% ng buong population ng registered voters sa Pilipinas ay youth voters. So, pag i-assume natin na lahat ng 52% na yan ay magboboto para sa isang kandidato, then that can really change the result of the elections. But we also have to consider na hindi homogeneous ang kabataan.
Yes.
So kahit na 52% ng registered voters ay kabataan, hindi safe kumbaga to assume na lahat ng yan ay isa lang din ang boto nilang lahat because
Right.
most likely may mga differences din ang kabataan, and that was already, I think, exemplified by the example by what Sir Patrick said, no, na may mga nakaka-disagree nga tayo sa Facebook, may mga cousins tayo na hindi na natin kinakausap dahil iba ang ating mga political opinions.
Right.
And I think that can still be a challenge. So hindi ibig sabihin na majority na tayo ng population ng registered voters ay ma-change natin. The challenge is still convincing people and making people see why you have to vote for this candidate over another.
Right. Patrick, naputol ka kanina. Would you like
Yes
to
po,
finish your
yes.
point earlier?
Sir, I guess yun na lang din to wrap up na lang the question. I'm listening din to Gwen kanina. Iba-iba tayo ng socio-political background, iba-iba tayo ng mga kinagisnan, even in the family. Minsan, ang misinformation ay nagsisimula sa family natin and then nakalakihan na lang natin. I believe kaya naman ng youth vote, but it's still a challenge given na we all have different perspectives and yun nga, different culture. For example lang, sa family, di ba, lagi nilang sinasabi, nung panahon ni ganito, maayos naman kami. Pero kahit maayos sila nung panahon ng martial law, it doesn't mean na hindi naman naghirap ang maraming tao sa martial law. Diba? They are making martial law all about themselves. Na porket okay lang sila, hindi present yung human rights violations, yung torture. So different tayo ng experiences. And then there's still a lot to do in terms of really consolidating the youth vote. Pero based on my experience working on the ground, and then of course, following people sa generation natin, nakakatrabaho natin sila, may pag-asa naman po na ang henerasyon namin ngayon ay talagang informed voters and hopefully makapagpanalo tayo ng kandidato na makakabataan ngayong darating na halalan 2022. Thank you po.
Thanks, Patrick. Unfortunately, bitin yung oras natin, no? Ang dami ko pa sanang gustong pag-usapan at itanong sa ating guests ngayon. Pero siguro last part ng ating episode ay gusto kong tanungin sina Patrick at Gwen na dugtungan itong title ng show natin, Baka Naman Pwede, no? So kung halimbawa meron kayong recommendation or meron kayong vision sa gobyerno natin sa Pilipinas, ano yung magiging ninyo recommendation, no? So simulan natin sa Baka Naman Pwede, no? So siguro Gwen and then Patrick.
Alright. I'll try, Sir Skilty. Kaso yung Tagalog ko po ay hindi masyadong
No problem.
maganda. So, please be patient. Okay. Baka naman pwedeng mas tuunan ng pansin ang pagresponde sa COVID-19 pandemic sa halip na gawing prioridad ang ibang mga bagay na hindi naman ganoon ka urgent sa mga panahon ngayon. Tulad ng advanced na pamumulitiko, baka naman pwedeng mas makinig sa tunay na pangangailangan ng mga tao, lalong-lalo na ang mga mahihirap at mga marginalized sa lipunan, sa halip na pagserbisyuhan ang interes ng mga may kapangyarihan. And siguro finally, baka naman pwedeng mas maging accountable sa mandato na protektahan ang teritoryo, mga likas na yaman, at syempre ang mga mamamayang Pilipino laban sa mga banta na maaaring mas magpapahirap sa atin. Kasi at the end of the day, taong bayan ang nagdedesisyon kung sino ang bibigyan ng kapangyarihan. So, I think tama lang din na sila din yung number one priority ng gobyerno na in power.
Maraming salamat, Gwen. Patrick.
For me naman, Sir Skilty, baka naman pwede, no? For once, isang tabi muna natin yung mga political differences natin. Tigil na natin yung false dichotomy na DDS dilawan, walang ganon. Dahil sa panahon ngayon ng pandemya, mas kinakailangan nating ituon yung pansin natin sa kung ano yung nakikita natin na nag-work talaga na programa. May kapartido man natin yan or hindi. Kung talagang maganda naman yung ginagawang inisyatibo, suportahan natin at itry natin gawin kasi baka mag-work siya kaysa dun sa existing programs, policies na ginagawa natin. And another baka naman pwede yung mga kapwa kabataan namin ni Gwen, pumasok tayo sa gobyerno. Actually, yan po ang aking plan for the next years. Yan ang isa sa aking mga long-term plans. Pasok tayo sa gobyerno, ituon natin yung galing, yung lakas, yung talino natin, tsaka yung pagkamakabayan natin sa pagsilbi at paglilingkod sa bayan. Kasi at the end of the day, kailangan ng government ng fresh ideas galing sa generation natin. Kasi tayo na to eh. Ito na yung panahon natin. Kung pakiramdam natin disconnect or detach yung government, baka kailangan natin pumasok para mag-ambag din. And siguro baka naman pwede, no, mas pahalagahan natin yung mga historical facts. Yakapin po natin yung kasaysayan natin, maganda man yan o hindi, para maiwasan natin ulitin ulit. Kasi panigurado, kung ano man yung mga nangyaring hindi maganda noon, bahungot siya para sa mga Pilipino. Yakapin natin yung historical facts, tigil na natin yung historical revisionism, at patuloy tayong mag-strive para sa isang mas maganda at secured na future, hindi lang para sa generation natin, kundi para sa mga susunod pa.
Ayan. Salamat, Patrick. Sobrang inspiring, no, yung episode na ito for me at hopefully sa mga young viewers natin at listeners. I hope and I believe that you could be inspired by the experiences and the activities of Gwen and Patrick as young leaders, no. Dito po nagtatapos, no, yung episode natin ngayong araw. Again, nagpapasalamat kami kay Patrick at Gwen sa oras ninyo sa pagsama sa amin ngayong araw na ito. Samahan po ninyo muli kami next week, no? 3:00 ng hapon dito sa Radyo Katipunan. Next week po ay makakasama natin sina Dr. Joel Canuday at Mr. Joey Sescon para sa launch ng Ateneo de Manila University's Mindanao Reader website. Baka naman pwedeng i-like nyo rin ang IPC Facebook para sa iba pa naming announcements at events. Muli po, ako si Skilty Labastilla. Mag-iingat po tayo at laging tandaan, kung may gustong maunawaan, baka naman pwedeng pag-usapan.
Feeling blue?
Baka naman pwede.
Baka naman pwede.
Baka naman pwede. Mga isyong napapanahon, ating pag-usapan. Baka naman pwede. Gamit ang mga pananaw mula sa iba't ibang kalinangan.
Baka naman pwede.
Mula sa Institute of Philippine Culture, kami inyong samahan, tayo'y maghuntahan. Dito lang sa
Baka naman pwede.
tuwing Huwebes, 3:00 ng hapon, dito lang sa Radyo Katipunan 87.9 FM.